Very good morning to everybody. Completely my pleasure to be on this, to be hosting this panel. My name is Rachit Mathur. I'm a MD and partner with BCG. I anchor a lot of our work in the consumer and the retail space. Today's topic is exactly the right one. I think we've got a fantastic panel to share some insights. The plan is to run a few questions past them, not be too controversial about it, but be a little pokey at times. And I think we will leave the last 5-7 minutes for any questions the audience might have. Before we start, maybe can I just request everybody for a quick round of introductions. Deepak, maybe we can start with you and move it along towards me.
Yeah, I'm Deepak Aggarwal, and I represent KAZO brands, and we are at the moment having 3 brands under the umbrella, which is, of course, the KAZO is the biggest one. Then we have just launched Details by KAZO, that's accessories brand, and then KAZO7, that's a youth athleisure brand. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sameer Manglani, partner at India's leading, most trusted ethnic Indian women wear brand, Meena Bazaar. We've embarked on an ambitious journey to sort of change the Indian fashion landscape, especially with ethnic women wear. We have a bold target of opening 1 new store every 30 days. And we are looking at an amazing retail growth story and looking forward to an amazing session here.
Good morning, friends. My name is Rajesh Jain. I work for an international premium lifestyle brand called Lacoste. Lacoste is a 90-year-old brand. Lacoste entered India about 30 years ago, and I'm the managing director and CEO for that company, which is managing Lacoste in India. So the topic today is actually very interesting, future-proof business. Just to touch upon that, I don't think anybody thinks about a number or a year when we talk about the future. Does any number like 5 years, 10 years, or a year, let's say 2030, 2050 comes to our mind? I don't think it does, because whenever we talk about future, we talk about an infinite period of time. And obviously, when we talk about making that business future-proof, all of us would have some beliefs, some views, and we would love to share it with you. Let's see how it goes from here. Thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. I'm Manjula Tiwari. I'm founder of a brand, of the brands Cover Story and Ancestry. We are now part of Reliance Retail Ventures. And I'm very happy to be here and with my colleagues and hear their views. Super.
No, so Rajesh, thank you very much for stealing my thunder. I was exactly about to start by saying, what does the term future mean? As a management consultant, I've earned my bread painting a lot about the future, but I can tell you one thing that, from a decade back where, the definition of a future would be a decade, today, very candidly, I think anybody can be honest enough to accept that seeing beyond 3 years maybe, you will really need to be highly premonitive, to predict that. So even if we keep a medium-term lens in mind of about 3 or 5 years, I think the other 2 terms which are equally important in the topic is agility. That's quite key, and the other one is flexibility. I think both are pretty important ingredients to creating a future for tomorrow. But let's just go around the panel first and talk about what matters the most here, which is the future consumer. And just wanted to take a quick sense from the panel here on how you are seeing select trends, certain consumer behavior playing out, which is a lead indicator of how consumers will behave tomorrow. So maybe Deepak, you could start with that, and again, would love to hear the panel's views, just given the diversity of the of the businesses you're in.
Sure. As social media being one of the biggest, I would say, area to let us know what's going on. So everybody is very well aware of what's actually coming new and what are the expectations are very much driven from the social media at today's generation. So it's very important that we are for sure catching up with the fast fashion, but I would say in a slow fashion manner. So this is, I think, the new way of adopting the fashion business reality. as well as I would say the localization is very, very important, because localization plays a very big role. India being a diverse country, and you cannot have the same way, even if you say Europe, the whole Europe having different countries, still the localization is not that big as is in India. So the localization plays a very, very big role. We have to see and generate local heroes, when I say local heroes product, for each region. And that's very, very important, because that is the expectations. And also the temperature and the seasons also is behaving very differently within India. So it's a very important thing that we need to be very clear that what is the expectations on the other side cannot be driven sitting and creating the collection for the entire whole India, pan-India. It cannot be. It has to be definitely localized. And of course, the expectation will always be what's new. But still, at the same time, they want new, but can be worn more frequently. So it has to be fast fashion in a slow manner. This is what I believe is the new way to look at it.
For me, going forward, I mean, as far as trends are concerned, in the ethnic wear industry, definitely, I've sort of realized that Bollywood definitely, dictates a lot of trends for us. I mean, with saris in particular, the latest blockbuster with Rocky and Rani, most of the women have, gone back to saris. So for us, more on a semi-organized brand, we are quick and fast to catch up with all that fashion, be it the type of saris, or be it the colors, or be it the cuts of, blouses, or, silhouettes. So that's something that for me, I think is dictating the terms. People's own perspective of what they feel will look good on them, rather than, a brand or somebody telling them, oh, you know what, this will look good on you. So I think that is something that we've come to realize. People have a lot of, with so much knowledge and information available, they have a very strong opinion about what they want. So just, I think adhering to that and revolving around that, keeping that in the back of our mind, is something that will dictate the future of fashion for us.
Rajesh, maybe you could share also shades of what you're seeing internationally, as well as how would you contrast that with what you're seeing in India?
Wonderful. So when we talk about the consumer, I don't think there is anything called static when we talk about the consumer's wants or the consumer choice. It keeps on evolving over a period of time. Whether in India or globally, if we see, I would like to encapsulate the current needs or wants of the consumer in 3 C's, 3 choices or 3 C's, as I would like to put it. So if we just look at a decade back, at that time, the most important point for the customers and for the retail business was collection. You have a great collection, and then you have a great location, and that was good enough to make a decent, good, successful retail business. But then, if you look at mid-2014, when e-com started entering India, a lot of digitization has started happening since then, whether pre-COVID and post-COVID digitization has actually gone from one place to other. That brought a lot of convenience in the mind of the customers. Now, not only the consumer wants a collection, they also want convenience. Anytime, anywhere shopping, the kind of range that they want, the kind of pricing that they want, and they want the comparison. They also want an endless aisle. All those things are bringing a lot of convenience in the mind of the consumer. The new thing, the third thing that is extremely important globally, and it is also now coming to India, is care. Care for the environment. Now, all the brands, whether in India or abroad, they're looking for reducing their carbon footprint. Even the consumers are very, very aware of this. They look for it. They want this. In fact, even in India, of course, this trend has been there very, very visible outside India, especially in the developed countries when we talk about the Europe or USA. But even in India, we see that when our customers come to our shops, they do look for products which care for the environment. So to encapsulate these 3 things, that convenience, collection, convenience, and care, they are the current choices of the customers. However, as I said, the consumer has been evolving. Their choices have been evolving. So I do not know what will happen 5 years from now. There would be a new dimension that could be added here. But as we speak today, apart from collection, the customers are definitely looking for convenience and care for the environment.
Mathur, would you care to share something, as your observations, both again, somebody who's seen a lot of what's happening internationally, but, rooted in India very closely?
We of course watch consumers globally to understand which are the larger global trends in the consumer's life, their choices, and how they view consumption. But of course, we focus mainly on the Indian market. So if I divide your question into, globally what I'm seeing is, as Rajesh said, there is a conversation about sustainable businesses, about businesses that, what kind of carbon footprint they leave behind. You've all seen, I think, Tim Cook, Viola Davis movie on their sustainability report, the Apple report, which is very, very interesting. So I think this is a very large conversation. And at a regulatory level, also in Europe, they're going to come back very strongly on businesses to be accountable for their sustainability. And consumers are demanding it, regulators are demanding it, and that clearly has an economic impact on the supply chain and therefore the final retail price and the demand and so on. So I think that's a very big trend I'm seeing. As far as the trend on product, the new generation, there is a lot of thrifting, pre-loved product. Again, it comes from where the global economy is, and also from a sense of, can I go for longevity? Can I reuse products and leave a smaller carbon footprint? Now, coming more to the market that our brands operate in, which is India, and especially women. So I'm going to address very focused on how I see Indian women are, consuming now. We cannot deny that I think we as a generation, or as the world has been through one of the most catastrophic events, right? And 3 years of it almost as in retail business. It has left, we may not address it, we may not recognize it, and we are still to see the impact of it in long term. But I think the pandemic has left the consumer with a different set of life values, right? So we saw revenge shopping the moment stores opened. And we saw this huge surge in buying, going to the stores. And most businesses made their projections for the current year based on revenge shopping. And everybody's like, no, now it's all settling down. So now we're seeing revenge travel, going out. People could not, in India specifically, we could not celebrate weddings. And you see huge amount of spending on weddings, etc. So I think one is, on one side, it's about life is too short, too unpredictable, anything can happen, let's live it today. And anything can happen, let's save for tomorrow. So it's very diametrically opposite. And I find the consumer is conflicted. Do I spend? Do I not spend? What lifestyle choices do I make? So I think that is leaving us as business people also figuring, you have great quarters, and then you're constantly saying what is happening, which category is growing. The discussion is about what is happening to QSR today. Yeah, but we are selling most cars, but the demand on apparel is low. So I think we're all going through a phase at a very large level. We have to understand how this consumer is going to take. And the millennial and the Generation Z, which is the future consumer, we're all trying to figure them out, to be honest. Yeah. So I think we are in a time of uncertainty. We do know the larger trends. And I think the industry and consulting, the businesses are really putting their heads together to understand. One of the very nice and good trends for us, who are all from retail industry, is the love for India, the pride in India. I think this is one of the biggest trends which is relevant for us in this market. We had SNN, We are Indian designers. Sabya is opening a store in New York, and I'm so proud of it because we have, from the 18th century, a tradition of textile. We were the biggest in the world, and people envied us for our craft and our arts. And I think there's a whole thing about Indian wear, contemporary Indian wear, being proud of Indian brands. And today's consumer is not saying, ye global brand hai, ye Indian brand hai. If your product is good and your value is good, they go for you. So I think these are the key trends that I'm seeing.
No, that's great. And thank you for sharing a very good right-brain version of it. Let me just summarize it as a left-brain version of what I heard. I think you know, and this is again coming from a lot of work that BCG has done both globally and in India. You know, we summarize it in the form of you know, the key consumer trends to be where and completely appreciative of the fact, Manjula, you mentioned about that there is an interim flux, right? There is no doubt about it. You know, everybody's still figuring out, you know, a little bit of reflection of, you know, what the past 3 years have been about. Is it over? Is it not? Has it actually given me some deeper meanings or some different things in life? Having said that, if you sum it up, I think, you know, there is a part around staying and being connected, you know, digitally or otherwise. I think, you know, there is a lot of reconnections happening back in the physical world too. And connections are not just electronically done. There's a second one which, you know, we are seeing is originality. You know, where there is there is a regeneration of saying that, look, you know, where is the originality in what I do or what I want, which is also linked to deeper sense on personalization that you're seeing. Again, you know, how much of it is at scale from a business perspective is still a big question still to be solved. But I think from a consumer perspective, you see the need for personalization and originality. I think there is another, and especially linked to India, you know, you're seeing two trends. One is a lot around awareness and thoughtfulness. I think, you know, you normally find larger India being a little unaware of all that is available and all that's accessible. But I think, you know, information secularity is really helping break a lot of that down. I think, you know, conscious, you both spoke about it at depth. It is going to come, but it's going to take its own pace in India, I guess, in some way. And largely, last, I think I'm personally stunned by the statistics that you see on women participation in economy and in economic value creation. I think over the next decade, we are going to see this, where if you will reflect back into, you know, what has happened to major economies worldwide, the participation of women in core economic value creation is where, you know, is going to be a shift. Now, yes, COVID has taken a little bit of a step back on that front, on the trajectory India was on. But to make, you know, 2 points that last year is, last to last year, the first year where there are more enrollments of women in graduation than men. And in 2016-17 was when there were more women who actually enrolled into the equivalent of class 11 than men. Now, those are all lead indicators of when, you know, you run into where you know, you can clearly see a change in the dimensions of the workforce, you know, going forward. Well, let's shift gears from from consumer to supply chain. Equally important, just given all the flux and the unpredictability we see around. And, you know, resilience as a term, or, you know, whether we call it flexibility, I think, you know, it has got a lot to do with the way fashion supply chains are. Honestly, I mean, imagine sitting today and trying to predict what consumers are going to wear tomorrow when potentially I don't know what I'm going to buy this Saturday. So it's a hard task, right? It's a hard task. Now, given the way supply chains are further, you know, the global supply chains in fashion are playing out, what's really the mantra forward? You know, and if the panel could share a couple of key points on the supply chain side that you are seeing or that you are keeping in mind as you are planning for business forward. Deepak, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah. Well, supply chain, I would say, is the backbone of any retail fashion brand, especially when you talk about the fast fashion, because it's all about how it's like generation of an idea to the store. What is the journey? So generation of an idea to the store, the minimum the journey is, the successful the brand would be. So that's the, I think, the real mantra. If you meet, of course, my whole study about this fast fashion has been from group like Inditex and all, because we were one of the biggest supplier to them out of India. Then, of course, we thought that if we can make for them, why not for our own brand for India, right? And what I learned from there was always about the supply chain has to be robust, absolutely very, very system oriented from the time you think of an idea. Okay, I saw this in the runway and I need this to be in the store. How fast can you do it? Are you choosing the right supply chain vendor for it? Are you using the right mode of bringing this into the store? I've seen a lot of brands we're working with, and they were still with a very old mindset. I'm talking about European brands when we were working with them, right? They still have to spend, they can make the best product, but they will not use the best mode to use the transportation to bring into the store. They will still focus always on by sea and logistic and all, and which will, of course, kill the period to come, arrive the merchandise at the right time in the store. Whereas Inditex would always say, okay, if I want to buy, I want to buy, and I want to buy it right now, and I want in the store right now. And it has to be by air, and they don't care about small issues. Okay, this pink is not that pink, because consumer doesn't know in the end. It's all about if you can bring the right product at the right time. So I think it's very important the supply chain back end has to be fully digitalized from end to end. We talk about omni-channel. Omni-channel, of course, is again a part of supply chain, how we can see what is available at which store, right? Though I would say the omni-channel, how we were talking about mixing up with online, I would say it's more to be offline brick and mortars, that if we know which product is available at which store, if it is not available at this store, and how fast can we bring it to the customer from the other store to the consumer who wants it right now. So it's very important that the supply chain has to be very, very robust, digitalized, and that's the new thing which we are focusing a lot on, to get the supply chain as digitalized as possible. So every store managers can see where is the product lying, how fast can you bring it to the table if there is a demand for it, and there's not a loss of opportunity of sales because of non-availability at the store. So supply chain, of course, is the keyword for any.
Raj, maybe I could take this one to you next, because you're a part of a global supply chain in some form, where there is going to be a fair amount of decisions which actually happen centrally, out of headquarters, and a lot might be happening locally. What are the couple of insights you can share with us from a global brand's perspective in terms of localization of supply chains? Is there a higher push towards merchandise which is more locally created, where the mind to market is very locally done, or is it actually to move it more and more centrally?
So see, it's both actually. It's global also and the local also. We import a lot of stuff from outside India, and that is where the global supply chain becomes very, very important. And we obviously ship a lot of stuff from our mother warehouse to our stores, one part of it. Then the local supply chain becomes very important. But at the same time, another supply chain that needs to be very, very robust for any retail brand in India is the new thing that is because of the e-commerce. Now, the supply chain, earlier when we used to think only about supply chain from mother warehouse to your stores. But now it's from your mother warehouse to individual customers when you are supplying it to them through your e-commerce platform, whether it is third-party marketplace or your own brand.com. For all these things, supply chain has to be very, very robust, and it has to be very, very efficient also. We are a slow fashion. We are not a fast fashion like Deepak or let's say to some extent Manjula's business is. But in case of, and hence we don't need such super fast speed in replenishing our stock in the store. But at the same time, because we also are from fashion industry, every few months, every 1.5 months or 2 months, we have to replenish stock or refresh the stock. From that perspective also, supply chain is extremely important. What we really saw that during the COVID period and immediately after COVID period, global supply chain went for a toss. The entire supply chain for shipping the material from different countries, whether it is raw material or finished goods, it became extremely difficult for us. And not only the time, the costs went through the roof. Those costs and the timelines are slowly and gradually coming back to normal. However, even today, we don't see the pre-COVID era of the timelines and the cost both. And that is actually hitting our margins also. and the great customer delight that supply chain is an essential part of it, that also is getting slight hit somewhere even today. I think that needs to improve, and over a period of time, we are very sure that in a few months to come, we will be back to the normal across the board, and that will add a lot of value to bring the customer delight and to ensure the business runs smoothly.
So, Manjula, on the same topic, let me just take this to you. I think, you corrected me about half an hour back that you were a fast fashion player. We've heard a lot of stories of, how Zara operates, how the others operate and so on. Contextualize us for your business in India. What has worked? What is still, where do you still need to do the journey? How does somebody create that in India?
Very interesting question, Raj. And I think it's a very relevant question as so many people in India are now creating brands. And we've always learned models from the West, but we've also always learned, and the big brands and across categories, whether it's cars or, we learned that for India, you need to Indianize. And India is not one market. It's not 2 markets. It's possibly 30 markets, or I don't know how many number of states we have. You can tell me. So what I'm trying to say is that I spent a lot of time in Spain. I went to Inditex suppliers. I source out of Turkey. I source out of Korea. I source out of Sri Lanka and China, because we wanted Cover Story to always have a global handwriting. The idea was you create a global brand which fits the Indian woman. Because I've worked all my life before I founded this brand with international brands, and I serve the customer. I still go on the floor and sell to consumers, and I found that they love it, but it doesn't fit me. It's German, so the sleeve is that long. The trouser doesn't fit me. Or you had Indian brands that created Indian look which fit. But what the consumer wanted was global looks that fit her. So Cover Story was born. My biggest challenge has been in this brand is been the supply chain in India, because I spent a lot of time in Turkey, in Spain, in various countries in the world just to understand. One is the collaboration between the supplier and Inditex or H&M and so on. The supplier is also the designer. They understand what the brand wants, and they're constantly making a collection every week. So it's not only the brand that makes the collection every week, the supplier makes the collection every week. They have designers, they innovate. So it's such a huge amount of collaboration. Secondly, a lot of product is nearshored for speed, for innovation. And in fact, post-COVID, people realized their dependence on China on a single country can be devastating to their businesses. So actually the trend globally now is to nearshore and not go so far away in terms of sourcing and create capabilities close. And which is what we're trying to do in India. Now, what is missing in India is we had parallel supply chain in India in textiles and clothing. We had exports that was working to the buyer's demands. And then we had domestic suppliers who were talking to a different set of consumers in a very wholesale and mass market. We didn't have that breed of suppliers who invested in design, innovation, who attended fairs for domestic. And that is an ecosystem which is still at a very infancy. But, I believe in Indian enterprise. I was so thrilled when I was in London last and I was meeting some suppliers of UK brands, and they said now Surat is actually innovating and creating fabrics that were only available in China. Now, India is the highest polyester yarn, viscose. So at a yarn stage, we are the biggest manufacturers, but we're not creating fabrics or the value. And it's unbelievable after COVID, when you go to Surat, you see the kind of fabrics you never saw. You always sourced from Korea. So I'm an optimist by nature. So I feel that COVID has had negative and positive impact. And one of the things it has done in India is woken people up. You know, you go to, you've heard of Shein. It's based in Guangzhou, and I go a lot to China. What comes in Premier Vision? Within 1 week, that fabric is available. You can make a sample in 24 hours, and you can have the product out in 2 weeks. The same fabric would probably not be made in India after 3 years. You're talking about 1 week and 3 years. That is the difference. Now that has started shortening, and it's so fast, it's unbelievable. So I'm happy to see that.
I agree with you on this part. Sorry, that we are for sure same way the KAZO has been the international brand for the way it has been cultivated is of course to bring the same fashion like what Inditex and H&M and all are doing, and being all into supply chain as we are one of the biggest supplier to these brands, so we know what exactly and how. So we've been a little bit different from what you're saying that we've been going to Turkey, to Korea, or everywhere. So what we do differently is that we try to make the same products in India, and we would of course do some sourcing of raw materials and then try to develop them in India so that the speed plays the role, right? And the product from the idea to store should be minimized. Again, we have been doing products, this idea to store in 30 days, which is a very, very big achievement, right? And even today, okay, it's still changing, but when the brands like Zara and all, they came to India, they were never showing the same range in India. They were showing at least 1 or 2 season old range in India. So this was the initial startup. Maybe they're changing it a bit now, still not 100% the same way, but that is where I think the Indian international brands takes a lot of leverage to come in and show them the products which will be seen maybe later on in Zara. So I think that's all about the logistic.
I wanted to add something quickly, and I'm really proud of saying that I believe from the panel, Meena Bazaar is probably the only brand that makes in India and buys locally. The supply chain issue, be it from concept to store, for Indian fashion is very, very quick. I'm really proud, I'm happy you mentioned Surat. The development of fabrics and textiles and, surface embroidery, everything, you name it, from Surat is really inspiring. I mean, that's making a big landmark and worldwide. And in Indian ethnic wear, I mean, I just mentioned, Rocky and Rani. You had within 2 to 3 days of the movie release, the markets were flooded with the same kind of saris everywhere. And that has to do with Surat. So that and I agree, it is very important supply chain in any industry, be it in F&B, you've heard of farm to fork, and, be it in clothing, be it automotive, anything. But the moment brands now realize that India is, very powerful, and India as a destination for manufacturing, as a destination even for retail, is the right place to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, with Amazon, Flipkart, all these guys doing so well on these big billion days and 10/10 and whatnot, the kind of logistic support that is there at a local, hyper-local level in India is phenomenal. And I'm really proud of saying that everywhere we open a store, we definitely make use of that, be it with, you call it part of omni-channel, if there is a local delivery that needs to be made and online order. So we use local, transport. The team, the logistical team that we have sitting in our head office is very strong. So those people need to be aware that team needs to be very, up with it, that what's happening new, and, be it any channel partner you use. But that is playing a very important role for us.
Well, the clock says 6 minutes and 20 seconds.
Can I just add one thing? I just want to correct myself that we tend to think of fashion as Western, and you're absolutely right. 80% of Indian women's market is traditional, and I think our Indian brands have actually done fast fashion and have been doing it for a very long time. And we tend to be very westernized in the way we look at things, yeah.
So look, I've got 2 very important topics more to talk about. We have exactly 5 minutes, 45 seconds. So as a panel, let's stick true to that clock. The first one is actually, one of my observations, working through with a lot of leading CEOs one of their, I would say, not regrets, but something that they've not been really happy about has been the ROI on their digital investments. They've made digital investments in commerce, working on e-commerce, their own brands, multi-channeling. You've invested behind tools and technology for internal ways of working. You've invested behind a lot of, media creation and so on. What has been your observation? And this one I will just leave to two people, and then the next question I will leave for that too. But Deepak, maybe you would want to go for it first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that our investment on digitalization has always been actually very, very great. So we don't have any regrets on this because we've been very proactive in looking into how the things are and only then investing into digitalization because it's too early to invest if you, like, for example, omni-channel thing, right? I think we would be the last one to go for omni-channel because the business, what we are in is mostly brick and mortars, right? And brick and mortars, fast fashion is always going to be the winner. And when talk about omni-channel to come in to digitalize everything for omni-channel, especially looking into the scenario of online business, then it's online business still in India is for fast fashion is a discounted business. So it doesn't make sense to invest too much there already to follow the people if they're doing it. So we are a little bit slow there, but we go right, I would say, observe, understand, and then we go into it.
Rajesh, any thoughts on this one? Because I'm sure you would have, again, another mix of stories from the West and the East.
Of course. So first of all, I think when we talk about digitization or technology, I would like to just draw a parallel. We all have heard that money is a bad master but a good servant. I think that analogy can be actually implemented on technology also. If you start considering technology as the end objective, then I think it's a very bad decision for any business, especially in the retail sector. But if you consider technology as a tool to achieve the end objective, which is ultimately your business and the customer delight, then it's a great tool. It's an amazing tool. We obviously have utilized technology in such a manner that it delivers a great ROI for us and it delivers a great customer delight also. Because we are a rich to luxury brand, we don't expand ourselves too much and we do a very selective distribution network. So there are a lot of places where we are not physically present. But because of e-commerce, because of digitization, even those customers who don't have access to our physical stores are able to place great orders for us, and that has resulted into a great incremental business for us, and that business has been growing by more than 100% every year. So digitization from that perspective has been a great business decision, and not only in e-commerce. If you look at the other aspects of the business, whether it is predicting the right kind of demand, what will happen in the future, and making it available at the right time, at the right place, is a great support from the technologies where we are getting. Similarly, in digital marketing tools. So we spend more than our 90% of our budget, marketing budget now on digital marketing. Because with the help of digital marketing, we are able to reach out to the exact TG. Earlier, when we would go and give, let's say, a print ad, and we'll keep wondering whether one day our TG would be able to see that ad, and we don't know whether the TG has seen that ad or no. But today we are able to actually reach out exactly to our target customer to whom we want to reach out. And we are able to also understand the ROI for that. For every digital marketing decision we take now, we always map it to the ROI that we get, and we do get the right kind of ROI and are able to measure it. So from that perspective, I think digitization, whether it is in the front end or the back end, has been a great tool for us. But I would just like to add one thing once again, when I was talking about the money being a bad master, that whenever we go for any technology, it shouldn't happen that we start going for technology just for the sake of technology. We have to choose our right kind of technology at the right time also. It doesn't have to be the very first person who is attacking the technology. So I think digitization is a great tool, and it's going to help the businesses in the future also.
So I'll take that as a linked question, and I'll just take it last to both of you. I think, there's also been a big discussion in the fraternity on talent, right? There was the originality of talent, whether it was on designers and who could create collections and who could create some things which were just completely out of the blue, where signatures literally were carried by, talent in this industry. With the combination of complexity, with so much of, with fast fashion coming in, with, so many digital tools available now for assisting creation, how are you managing talent in your respective organizations? Do you still see it as the same great quality that used to come in and one can tap into, or is it has to be now nurtured and developed and invested in?
The tools that are available are at, they're just developing. And you can do sampling on 3D. You can use tools like that. Designers can, it makes their life easy. And actually, it gives them more time for true originality and creativity and to be inspired by, like we send people to Murshidabad in ancestry, or we do fabrics from Kutch with the real weavers and artisans and crafts. So our designers are now free to actually go to Banaras, weave something on the loom, because the rest of the grunt work, they have tools to do it, right? So I think the tools are really helping creativity and helping the arts all around the world, actually.
And Ramesh, would you want to give a view on the same? I mean, as somebody who's, as an entrepreneur and promote a family, as you're digitizing the business, anchored a lot on talent, but how are you playing that balance out in the business?
I think we were fortunate that we have struck a fine balance. We definitely understand the importance of talents, but at the same time, we understand the importance of processes and systems. There is a way things work. You have to be in alignment with that. So the amount of digitization that we've done with checklist, with what roles and responsibilities are for a particular person, for a particular team, that has really struck that balance. And now it is the checklists speak for that particular team or for that person, and the performance is very crystal clear. So managing talent becomes very easy when you can measure their performance as well. So we are investing more on measuring performance, even to the level of our sales team, the number of customers they attended, the number of bills they made, their conversion ratio, what is their average rupee sale. So all that has helped with managing talent for sure. So that digitalization in our back-end processes has definitely been that enabler for us to manage talent much better.
Well, with that, let me just, thank the panelists. There's one big red sign here which says "Time's Up" in capitals. So let me, I think I would have loved to open the house for questions, but I think we are behind time. We can take some questions. So we can take a couple of questions if there are any, and if a mic, and there are many. Grab a mic and ask.
Hello, speakers. My name is Sarthak, so I founded a brand by the name of Vyakti. So we deal plant-based leather accessories. So my question is for Rajesh sir, that you talk about 3 C's. I want to talk about the third C you talk about, that is care. And how that care is going to play the part in the industry, because sustainability and the conscious part comes at a cost. And vis-a-vis coming the fast fashion aspect of the fashion industry, will the customer be ready to pay the extra amount for the care part? Because they are able to find the same product at a much cheaper price, which gives the same value, but is the customer is gonna be ready to pay that C for that C part?
100%. In fact, as I said, that it has started coming to India now. Globally, the customer is first of all, globally the customers are more aware of sustainability factor, and they're willing to pay a little more extra premium. Even within India, let me also tell you, as far as Lacoste is concerned, we have a defined time frame to reduce our footprint by a certain percentage over the defined time frame. In fact, even today, earlier what we used to do is, let's say a few years ago, whatever were the leftovers, we would scrap our garments. But today, we don't scrap our garments at all. There are 3 defined principles. One is, the best part is, the first priority is that you convert textile to textile. Second is you convert textile to yarn. And the third and the least preferable method is to convert textile to energy. We don't convert textile to energy. We choose either of the first two steps. When the customers come to our shops, they do ask for recycled versions. They do ask for organic cottons, and they're willing to pay a little more extra premium even in India. But as you rightly said, in India, this thought process is still evolving. Globally, the process has evolved quite a lot. Customers are indeed willing to pay a little more premium to go for more sustainability products, to go for more those products which are environment friendly.
Thank you, sir.
One more question. Can you pass the mic?
Hi, sir. Good morning. My question is specifically to Rajesh, sir. So, since you're well versed with the global economy as well, so the economies are quite stressed out at this point of time, and the apparel retailers have too much inventory in their warehouses. So, how do you see the future demand going, sir?
So first of all, I would like to give a little different perspective. When we talk about the global economy is under stress, yes, it is under stress. However, what is happening globally and in India also, the premium brands are growing. So when we talk about the K-shaped recovery, that is actually happening, especially in India, when the premium brands are growing and the mass brands are not growing as fast. In fact, some of them very static, some of them also declining. Going forward, I do think this is only a phase. When we talk about the phase, my firm belief is that whenever the economy goes on, every 4 to 6 years, there is a phase which is a down phase in any economy, especially in India. During that phase, you have to take care of two things. One is resilience, and the second is adaptation. Normally, when we talk about adaptation and resilience, it sounds more like a passive thing that whenever there is a good time, we will resiliate, we will bounce back, and we will start adapting to whatever is the current scenario. But I was very happy when Rachit corrected me in the beginning that it's only on the future we are talking about. We are also talking about agility and flexibility. That shows a lot of proactiveness. So during this phase also, if we look at this phase as an opportunity, you talked about inventory. I'll give you an example. When COVID happened, most of us were, actually all of us were looking at a very downturned phase. We took it as an opportunity. We were left with a lot of inventory, which included the last year's inventories also. And in fashion industry, you can't afford to have old inventory. What we could do during that period of time and taking this challenge as an opportunity, we started curtailing down on our future inventory or future production. And we could flush out most of our old inventory during that period and immediately after that period. Today, when we, just after the COVID, we saw that we are sitting on a great aging of inventory. So when you talk about the inventory aging, etc., I think take it as an opportunity and try to flush out that old inventory during this period and immediately after this period. Then you will see that your sales will immediately start going up after, let's say, this downturn phase or the inflation phase that we are looking at it right now. You will bring a lot of new customers and then you will be able to command a better pricing also because you will have very latest inventory in your stock.
Well, with that, let me just, once again thank the panel. I think, there were a lot of hands raised, so I'm, do catch any of the panelists while you're around or having a cup of tea. The very fact that there were so many hands means that I think we said something which was heard, which is a good thing. But
we're in the first half of the day, right?
we are in the first half of the day. So thanks so much. I think I would just like to close the session and once again thank ETFAIS to have invited us and given us the opportunity to talk to everyone. And wishing everybody a very happy festive both for business and personally.